Hey everyone, welcome to the program WRSA Radio. I am your host G1 as always. I hope you are having a good week. Man, well, it's good to be back for one. Man, I tell you folks, sometimes doing your own project is a terrible time sink. Keep this in mind for all the spiciness that's coming in the future. You need to plan for more time to do things. It's always going to take longer than you think it is. So these projects that you might be putting off, or any repair, anything that you might have to do when times are much tougher, just understand you probably need to have parts, and it's going to take a lot longer than you think it is. Last week I was supposed to be on vacation. I was not sure I was going to have time to do a show, but I left that possibility open. Well, the best laid plans, of course. I had decided that I wanted to get the last of a remodel project done for our mountain abode. We had one bathroom left to kind of spruce up and bring up to date. The house is older, and we've been doing remodeling for a few years now. So this was kind of the last little bit here, and I had gathered all the things that we wanted to change. Kind of over the last few months, we'd bought a new light fixture and new faucets, and we already had flooring and a vanity that we had purchased to match some of the other things that we were doing. So basically everything was in place except for these small things that I didn't necessarily know I was going to need, like plumbing connections, certain plumbing connections. I had planned for this to take me 3 days from Monday to Wednesday. I was going to demo, take out all the old stuff, new paint, new flooring, new vanity, blah, blah, blah. And that was based off of my experience with another bathroom that I had done in the house just back in January. And I felt confident that I would get this knocked out and have the last few days of the week to do a day trip and a couple other things. I wanted to go to the range and a couple things like that. But that is not how it worked out. Lots of plumbing issues popped up when I went to reconnect all the sink, the feed lines, and the drain and whatnot. Multiple trips to the hardware store looking for the right fittings and connections and adapters, and so it was just a complete pain in the butt to deal with, and it reminded me of why I hate doing plumbing. I don't have any issue doing construction. I have no problem doing electrical. I can do those kind of things, to an extent. But man, plumbing is just such a pain, such a pain. So I didn't get to finish that project up until Friday, about 1 or 2 o'clock is when maybe it was a little later actually, when I finally, put the last little nail in it and said, okay, honey, it's done. Go look at your new bathroom. And that just killed me getting a show together for last week. So apologies to everyone. That was unexpected, and it felt like while I got the project done, I was still missing something. Like my week was incomplete because I didn't get a show out. Anyway, we are back on track now and moving forward. I did get a chance to finish a book I was reading in the evenings. It's a new book from Robert Gore, who does the Straight Line Logic blog. It's called The Gray Radiance. Good writer, good man. I got a chance to meet him at an event ran by NC Renegade a few years back. Smart guy. He has a very interesting backstory. I'm trying to work out a time to do an interview with him for the show. So look for that coming up here in the near future, next couple of weeks. I think we're going to maybe put something together next week, but we'll see. We'll see if that might be next week's episode. I'm not sure, but it's a good book. Go pick up the book, and give it a whirl. Also, I promise I will have that show that I mentioned a couple of episodes back. I think it was last episode, in the next week or two as well. So keep an eye out for that one. That one I think is going to be a good one. But anyway, this week, what are we talking about? Well, over the last 2 weeks, we have seen numerous examples of what is called lawfare. This is the practice of weaponization of the courts against people that the government doesn't like. and it can be criminal or it can be civil. It's usually civil matters. The bar for civil cases is considerably lower than for criminal cases, meaning that the rules for evidence and what is admissible are much looser in a civil case than they are in criminal trials. And judges and whatnot can act far more on their whims and opinions in a civil trial than they can in a criminal matter. There's a lot more that another judge might disagree with them on appeal and shoot them down on appeal in a criminal matter than there is a civil case. It's much more subjective in a civil case. And so that is typically the venue where these kinds of actions take place. We really saw this come into fashion, I think. I think you can go all the way back to the O.J. trial to see when this became something that was kind of popularly done by legal teams. He was found not guilty in the criminal case, and many people disagree with that. I disagreed with that decision. The families of the victims then went on to sue him in civil court, where they won a fairly large monetary judgment against him. Now, his case is, of course, very interesting because while most just people believe that he did do the crimes, like I said, I believe he did, and he just simply benefited from the social pressure on the jury to find him not guilty. Not everyone thinks, however, that the civil case was a good idea. And we're looking back in hindsight, of course. I didn't necessarily like the civil case at the time. I remember thinking that doesn't really seem right that, O.J. had wealth and that could be taken from him. Had he been a low-level street criminal, the first case would have been it. Let's assume for a moment that the jury came to the same decision in this hypothetical here and found the street thug not guilty. He has no assets that he has to go after. That's the end of it. Any pursuit of justice is over at that point. Barring any kind of appeal in the criminal case, he would be free to go, and that would be the end of it. But that's how our system of justice is supposed to work. The court gets a very limited chance, or at least the government gets a very limited chance of trying to convict someone and achieve what is thought to be justice. We have double jeopardy. You can't be charged for the same crimes over and over again and just, keep going and going until you get a jury that will agree with you. That's not how our system works. But in these civil cases, you're giving the courts an almost endless swing at the target, with a little bit of a wrinkle there. And that's kind of a critical aspect of this, I think. The swings are not unlimited when it's private citizens who are initiating the civil cases. They have to pay for lawyers, and lawyers charge for their time quite a lot. So the calculation is going to be made, how long can we work on a case versus how much money can we hope to extract from this person or this business that we're going after. At some point, the clients are going to make a decision and possibly come to some kind of settlement in the case. Whether that's the target of the person, the person you're going after, or the person that is suing them. They may come to figure that, I don't want to be involved in this anymore. I just want it to be over. Let's settle for this monetary figure that we think is just compensation and move on. But this is very different when the government is the client. The government is acting on the so-called behalf of the citizens and undertaking a civil action against a target individual or business. They have almost limitless funds and time to conduct these actions because the taxpayers are paying for it. And we can't just tell them to stop or to take a settlement. We only get to vote for these people, these district attorneys and judges and whatnot, every so often. So a case can drag on and on and on, especially if a prosecutor, if it stays out of the public light and a prosecutor or district attorney gets reelected, then the case can just keep going on and on. This is where the problem arises, because this is far too susceptible to abuse and politicalization. This is happening all over the U.S., and really it's all over the Western world. We see it from D.C. to London to Berlin. It's everywhere. The age of lawfare is in full swing, and we seemingly have no way to stop it. The most obvious and latest victim of this, is, of course, is Donald Trump. Every case against him is an act of lawfare. It's so clear and obvious at this point. Again, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with him or not, whatever. That's not really the question. Were these being done just for the sake of dotting an I or checking a box for some prosecutor? Hey, I got this victory. I prosecuted this, this target, this victim, whoever, this bad person, whatever they want to label it as, and they get some settlement or agreement or whatever. That would have already been reached. Okay. That's not what it is. Small fine, restitution would have been paid. It would have all gone away if that's all it was. But we know that's not how they handle people that they agree with when those people are caught up in something that they can't deny. For example, Hillary Clinton, her election campaign was caught up and got fined for violations of election law. Violations that were very similar to the ones that were used to level accusations against Donald Trump while he was in office, and that led to him being impeached. And you can see that as plain as the sun coming up every day. Different people get treated in different ways depending on their political association. This week we have several cases of lawfare playing out, and of course we have no idea how many similar cases are playing out all over the country. We can't see those. It's only the ones that become sort of public, in the public spotlight. But this seems to be the tactic that is being mostly used by leftists or progressive district attorneys to inflict pain and suffering on people that they hate. Make no mistake, it is pain and suffering. We have a mayor in Illinois who's now under investigation, who's using the city's licensing process to shut down the businesses of people who've leveled accusations against her. So they have to go to court. They have to defend themselves. They have to try to get those licenses back. We have thousands of January 6th defendants, including many independent journalists who have had criminal charges filed against them. Tucker Carlson interviewed a writer from The Blaze this week who was caught up in all of that and got arrested here 2 weeks ago. Go watch that and hear his story to get an idea of how this thing plays out. We have a writer in Germany who was acquitted on charges, who's being charged again for the very same supposed thought crime because he published a book about the Kuf crackdown and he called the German government Nazis. He was under trial for that thought crime. He was acquitted. And now they are charging him again because they don't have double jeopardy in Germany. Imagine living with lawfare in that kind of environment. The whole point of these actions is to exhaust you mentally, physically, financially. It's done just to grind you down and force you to submit. They intend to bring you to heel in whatever manner they can. If they can't put you in jail outright, then they will just leave you broken and ruined. And if you've ever been involved with a legal case, you understand what I'm talking about. Let me enlighten you a little bit. I've not had the displeasure of it myself, beyond a few traffic incidents and things like that. But people very close to me have civil matters in most of the cases, but the results are the same. Having these cases holding out and hanging over you, they're a constant drain on you. They pull at you and wear on your mind. I know people who were involved in an injury case, personal injury case, and they had to pay out a large amount of money for medical treatment and surgery, even after their insurance covered a good portion of it. It wasn't their fault that they were injured. It was someone else's fault. They were deprived of tens of thousands of dollars in the middle of their retirement because they were forced to wait for years while this case resolved. That's more than just an annoyance. That's not just a mildly annoying thing. This is money that you were, hoping to have saved away to pay for your other medical treatments, the things that you're going to have, and maybe a vacation every once in a while or whatever. You're retired. You shouldn't have to fork over this amount of money, huge amount of money, and then wait for some civil case to resolve and just linger on and on and on. Like I said, that's more than an annoyance. And I did know someone who had a pending criminal charge, and lucky for them, they were out of jail while this drug on for years. They had to contend with the idea that everything that they were doing in their life could suddenly be taken from them because of false accusations. And that proved itself out. The charges were dropped against that person. But 2 years of stress and pain were endured while they waited for that to resolve itself. This is a terrible thing to happen. And it's terrible that when it's all over, there's nothing. It's just suddenly gone. And the people involved pretend like nothing happened. There's no apology. There's no contrition. Nothing. Particularly in a criminal case. One day you are an evil, vile person in the eyes of the law, and the next it's like, oh, you've disappeared. The eye turns from you like Sauron and looks at some other victim. That is the key piece here, I think. This continues to happen because there are no consequences for it happening. Government legal teams act in bad faith, and they do not face any negative repercussions from it. Nothing. When someone in the press shines a negative light on them and they do begin to see some kind of pushback from the public, they claim that they are the victim and that the people attacking them are politicizing the courts, particularly when it's a high-profile case. We are the problem, not them. This is more than just a sad state of affairs. This is immoral, and it's yet another contributing factor for what I and many others believe is the coming civil collapse that the West is staring down. This activity, it breeds contempt. It fosters an environment of further immoral actions. It encourages even larger and larger displays of this behavior. We have this taking place from the highest levels of office to the lowest levels because the communists have set this in motion. I can tell you what is going to happen. Well, I can't tell you what is going to happen down the road. But make no mistake, this is not our doing. This did not happen because of our behavior. This happened because those who seek to enslave us have conducted an almost unrestricted full-spectrum conflict against us. They have set their forces against us on all fronts. If they can't yet just legally shoot us down in the streets, they will rob us of our lives and our liberty and our honor. They're already pushing in the boundaries on just shooting us as well. The day is fast approaching where they will throw off all the final prohibitions they have and go fully kinetic. It's not here yet, but it's getting close. And they do these things and are plotting these things because they face no consequences. They fear nothing. And it's not because they have nothing to fear, by the way. That's not true at all. They fear nothing because they are ignorant of the possibilities. It does not cross their minds at all what they are doing. The low-level functionary who is at the front line of these actions believes that the world is operating as it should be. They have trust in the very same system that they are destroying. They truly believe that they can completely delegitimize the law, the courts, and those in position to enforce the law, and that somehow the people will just continue to accept and believe in that very same system and the health of its functionality. When people discard the system that you are working in, the system you are working so hard to dismantle and destroy, that system is in place to also protect you. When you have completely undermined it, it's going to collapse on top of your head and crush you under it. should keep that in mind. Anyway, that is all I have time for this week. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab, Nice Crew, and the Mothership, and I will see you on the next episode.